Hi everyone, this week I wanted to talk about Town Square and why I think it will be Dubai's best performing neighborhood in 2026. For those of you who aren't familiar with Town Square, it's a Masterplan community by Nshama, located south of Emirates Road and intersecting Qudra Street. It is a family-focused community known for its greenery, community events, and affordability. In fact, what usually surprises people the most is just how affordable Town Square is. As of February 2026, the prices for one-bedrooms go for 1,400 dirhams per square feet, and townhouses average closer to 1,300 dirhams per square feet. That's roughly 35 to 40% cheaper than Business Bay and Dubai Marina, and for townhouses, about 40% cheaper than Dubai Hills. And yet, you still get proper parks, community amenities, shops and cafes, and solid build quality. So, the question is, why the price discount? The short answer is location. But that answer needs more nuance. Over here in front of me, I have the map of Dubai. Now, Town Square sits on the southern side of Dubai, just south of Emirates Road and on the intersection of Qudra Street. It's not near downtown or Business Dubai Marina, which you see right over here. And there isn't really a metro. There is a bus link towards Mall of the Emirates, which goes right about over here. So realistically, if you live here, you will need a car, but that's also the case for most of Dubai. If you commute by car, what really matters is your road connectivity. The key road connecting Town Square to the rest of Dubai is Qudra Road. As you can see, it takes you towards Emirates Road, it takes you towards Sheikh Mohammed Road, Al Hayal Road if you need to go towards Business Bay downtown, and Dubai and Sheikh Zayed Road if you need to go towards Dubai Marina or Jumeirah. If you're new to Dubai, you can think of these major highways, which I've pointed out on the maps, as sort of the spinal network of Dubai. What I mean by that is that there are 6 to 8 lanes each. You can go to speeds of 100 to 130 kilometers an hour, which means they allow you to create great distances at speed. Your commute depends on your connectivity to these major roads. Over the past years, Town Square has historically struggled in this part. Why? Because the main road connecting Town Square to the rest of Dubai is Qudra Road right over here. In the past years, Qudra has become heavily congested. The reason why is because lots of families have been moving southwards towards the central suburb communities. Like we have Arabian Ranches here, Arabian Ranches 2, Mudon, and more communities. Now, this is the big turning point. Dubai's government is currently seeking a major infrastructure update on Qudra Road, the intersection between Al Nahyan Street and Sheikh Mohammed Street. Now, on the map, it's right over here. Now, this is exactly the stretch that Town Square relies on. The Qudra Road improvement has a budget of 800 million and is planned to be completed by the end of this year. So what are the actual facts behind it? Road capacity is set to nearly triple from 6,600 cars to 19,200 cars per hour. Average travel times in this stretch is expected to drop by 70%, and intersections are being enhanced for improved flow between them. If you live in Town Square, this matters a lot because you're directly on Qudra Road. In simple terms, at the end of this year, when the project is finished, your commute will become significantly easier, thanks to funding from the government. Let's have a look inside Town Square and see how the community is laid out. Now, Town Square is split into apartment and townhouse zones. Over here in the center, we have the main park. The main park, you can think of it as the heart of the community. Currently only has 2 main apartment blocks. That's Jannah Warda Apartments here and Ravda Apartments over here. In the main park, that's where you'll find most of the shops and cafes. There is actually a carousel, small water park, a sports fields, and actually a small little train for children. It is also where most of the events are hosted by the community management. One important thing to note about the park is that only half of it is built. I'll just put this on the map. The other half is set to be complete by the end of this year with the launch of the Symphony Araya and the Ayala Grove. When we have a closer look at the park, we see that it's surrounded by apartment communities. And the reason behind that is intentional. Apartment blocks are more population dense, and with this population density comes more need for businesses. With more businesses, there is more life, there's more shops and cafes, and there's more liveliness in the area. When looking at the amount of units already in the park, we have 1,477. That's marked by Jenna and Warda and rubbed over here. And we currently have 1,800 more units under production to be launched in the next 3 years. That's the La Nahaya, the Symphony Grove Aria Ayala, and the Baltimore Berkshire in Camden Alton. Next, you have the Southern District, right over here. Currently, there's only Una and Liva apartment blocks, with a total of 1,444 units right over here. And we have close to 12 new apartment blocks being built right over here, delivering an additional 1,900 units. Now this area, it's going to be more residential, less park-centric, and more suited towards younger tenants and investors focused on yields. Indeed, if you look at the off-plan projects on offer, the prices in this part are lower than in the main park. Now, looking towards the west, we have currently 3 projects announced: the Belmont, the Rosewell, and the Evelyn. So far, there's no existing blocks there, but the design of it is going to be a mini version of the park. You have a central park over here, surrounded by apartment blocks from all 4 sides. And the same concept will be carried over to the east side of Town Square, but there are currently no projects announced so far. Now, looking towards the villa communities, towards the east we have the Hyatt Townhouses with its share of 3 apartment blocks, and there are the 2 North Townhouses with its share of 3 apartment blocks. These apartment blocks are quite newer, and they had a similar idea behind them. They will hold the businesses on the ground floor, where the nearby townhouse and villa communities can easily go to them and walk to them. And to the north over here, you have Zahra Townhouses. They are actually 5 minutes walk to the main park. You have Safi Townhouses, as seen on the map. You have Shams, Maha, Reem, Sama at the bottom over here. And very importantly, towards the northwest, you have Nasim Townhouses. Now, a very big catalyst for Town Square will be the launch of Dubai International Academy in August 2026. Right now, the school is under construction, but soon it will open its doors. What this means is that villas and townhouses in Nasim Townhouses will be within a 5 minutes walk to the school. As an investor, this is something you should keep your eye on. Over here, I also have the current version of Town Square. And as I mentioned over here, you have the main park here, and the second half that is going to be open at the end of this year, with Dubai International Academy being right over in this stretch. When looking at the exits within the community, you have 3 exits towards the north, 1 right over here, here, and here. They also act as entrances into the community. And very importantly, I believe a year ago, they opened a new exit right over here on the map, which connects you to Emirates Road. Now, before that, you would have to go all the way to this roundabout to go onto Al Qudra and then exit into Emirates Road. But with the building of this new road, it has made the traffic much easier. Now, let's talk about the developer. Town Square is developed by Nshama, and most people there aren't familiar with them. The reason why is because Town Square is their only project. A bit of history: Nshama was founded in 2014 by Fred Dury, who previously was the CEO of Emaar International, and prior to that he has, I think, more than a decade experience working in senior positions in Dubai municipality. Given that Nshama is relatively new, how can you judge whether they're a good developer or not? And the answer is simple. Look at what they have delivered so far. Their first project handover was Zahra Townhouses in 2017. Now that is over 9 years ago. This gives us ample time to look at the real-world performance. I've personally visited Town Square many times. I've spoken to multiple residents living there, and I've been to the shops and cafes and viewed the units myself. Based on my personal experience, I really liked what I saw. The build quality is solid, and I believe exceeds what you expect at that price point. Maintenance has held up well, and the community actually feels lived in. Another important point: Town Square is a master planned community. For those of you who are unfamiliar with master planned community, that means one developer owns all the plots and develops the entire community themselves. That means the developer is solely responsible for the urban design, the amenities, the retail placements, and making sure that the long-term value of the community is upheld. This is opposed to multi-developer communities where one developer just buys a small plot and hopes to maximize the value of their own plot, usually without thinking much about the general community. Now, there are some risks to watch out. Dubai is facing a massive supply glut in the upcoming years, and Town Square is no exception. This is where most people get nervous, especially in the upcoming years. Future apartment supply. In total, Town Square is planned to have roughly 1,800 apartments. Currently, they have 6,200 units delivered, 4,500 units already announced and under construction, and that leaves 7,300 units to be delivered in the future. What this means is that from the current levels, within the next 4 years, apartment supply will increase by 70% and will more than triple in the upcoming years after that. Does this mean that prices will crash? Not necessarily. Yes, the increased supply will make it more competitive for landlords to sell and to rent their apartments out, but the way that Nshama is handling it is the best possible way to protect investors. First of all, supply is phased. What that means is that it's stripped in slowly rather than all at once. Second of all, each new launch is priced higher than the previous launch. Absorption rates have remained strong and vacancy rates are low. A very important point is that each new building adds in more retail and amenities. Now, townhouses are a different story. Townhouse supply in Town Square is already fixed. All the townhouses that have been planned have already been built, and the current unit number stands at 3,734. There are no more new townhouses planned within Town Square. That said, there is competition in nearby areas. If we look at the map, we will see that the Mac Islands 1 and 2 have recently been announced right over here. Here's the Mac Islands 1 and the Mac Islands 2. In total, although the numbers are not 100% confirmed yet, we're roughly looking at around 5,900 units in the Mac Islands 1 and roughly 4,000 units in the Mac Islands 2. This is compared to 3,734 units in Town Square. This is a significant increase in supply in the nearby area. However, it is important to note that the Mac Islands 1, it's a staggered handover, but only will it begin handovering in Q4 of 2028, and the Mac Islands even later, 2029 plus. Furthermore, the prices at which they launched are about 15% higher than the current prices in Town Square, adjusted for 3-bedroom townhouses. So does this pose a future supply risk to townhouses in Town Square? Yes, but the risk, I believe, is much more mitigated than if it was within the community itself. Now, let's look at the prices of the areas nearby. Over here, I have a map of the freehold villa communities near Town Square. Now, also, I've taken the liberty to put the price per square foot for each community, as well as the median price for 3-bedroom townhouses, which make up 75% of the townhouse supply in Town Square. The prices in Town Square are actually one of the lowest in this area. We can see that in Mudon, just right north, it's close to 20% more expensive. And in Cherrywood to the east, you have it being close to 10% more expensive. Now, let's take its closest neighbor, that is Mirareem, right over here. And when we compare prices, we see that they're roughly the same. So this leads us to the question, if the location is the same and the prices are the same, which one is a better pick overall? I strongly believe that Town Square is a better pick. First of all, because of the new school that's going to be open right over here. And second of all, because of their unique layout in urban design. Unlike all of these villa and townhouse communities, what Town Square has is that it's a mix of apartment and townhouse communities. With townhouses in Town Square, you have that gated community feel while having actual life happening outside your doors. That combination is rare in Dubai nowadays, and I think that is the key to the success of Town Square. If I was investing, here is what I would be buying within Town Square. Personally, I would prefer to invest in townhouses here. First of all, the supply is really fixed. Second of all, given obviously its distance from the main centers of Dubai, as people usually as they go further away from the city center, they're looking for a bit more space, especially if they're raising a family. And with this space, they obviously would prefer a townhouse. And third of all, you have to remember service charges. If you're planning on investing for rental yield, note that the service charges for a townhouse is around 4 dirhams per square foot. And this is compared to around 16 to 25 dirhams per square foot for an apartment. And these charges obviously eat up massively into your rental yield. Now, we obviously have 9 townhouse communities within Town Square. In my opinion, there are 2 ones which will majorly outperform. The first one is Zahra over here. Its location is unique in that it's very close to the main park, within a 5-minute walk, and will directly benefit from the second expansion of the main park later this year. The second community worth noticing is the Nasim Townhouses. Now, Dubai International School is right over here and it will open in August this year. If you're a family with small children, you would want to buy Nasim Townhouses, which will be within a 5-minute walk. Just for context, because it can be hard to judge distances from a map, it's roughly a 25-minute walk from the main park towards the Dubai International School. One also important thing to note is that there is bike paths running all along Town Square, right over here, which if you have older children means that they can bike to schools themselves. And it also goes right over here and across the entire community. Just as an estimate of the rental yields you could get, within townhouses, if you buy right, you can get about 5 to 6% net rental yield, and within apartments you're looking close to 6 to 7% net. Now, I would happily sacrifice that 1% rental yield and go for a townhouse, just because you're protected from the future supply risk and you have a higher chance of capital appreciation into the next few years. If your budget does not support a 2.8 million dirham payment for a townhouse and you're looking to invest closer to 1.2 million to 1.5 million, I would strongly recommend you to go for a 2-bedroom apartment on the main park. That's right over here again. Why I recommend a 2-bedroom apartment rather than say a 1-bedroom or 3-bedroom apartment is because single-child families who are looking to move to Town Square will prefer a 2-bedroom apartment. And when you're going into the 3-bedroom apartment territory, you're starting to compete with townhouses. Which 2-bedroom apartments I would recommend? There are strong options both on the ready market and on the off-plan market, but the ones handing over this year will be the Symphony, Araya, Grove, and the Lana and the Haya on the Park. Although the Lana and the Haya on the Park are most likely looking to be delayed to Q1 2027. Let's summarize. 2026 will be a pivotal year for Town Square. You have 3 major catalysts happening this year. First of all, you have the Qudra Road improvement, tripling capacity and reducing wait times in that stretch by 70%. Second, expansion of the main park into its second half. And finally, third, you have the opening of Dubai International Academy in August 2026. To best capitalize, I would suggest you invest either into Zahra Townhouses, the closest townhouse community next to the new main park, or into Nshama Townhouses, the closest townhouse community next to the new school. Or if your budget is a bit smaller at around 1.2 to 1.5 million dirhams, I would suggest you buy a 2-bedroom apartment next to the main park. Yes, supply risk does exist here, but prices are one of the most affordable in Dubai and in the area, and the supply phasing is disciplined, protecting early investors. If you are an opportunistic and value-driven investor, Town Square might just be one of the most interesting places in Dubai right now.